Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm working on a die cut card, so get comfy and let's get crafty. Today I am working with this honeybee stamp layering die set. It's called the Lovely Layers Sweets. It is a really big stamp set, or die set rather, so I actually cut the backing paper in half, added my magnets to it, and then stuck it in a regular stamp pouch that I trimmed out. I'm also using the burlap embossing folder and the Happy Birthday stamp and die cut set. I have the coordinating dies for the birthday word. This is the layering guide for the sweets stamps or die set. You can download this from Honeybee's website. And when I'm done, I'm just going to fold it and tuck it into this little pouch with the die set. So I have done most of the die cutting before we get started, or before I started. And we're going to go ahead and work on adding some color to the die cut pieces. I did cut them out of colored cardstock, so I chose to use this little ice cream cone, and it has 3 layers, and I've cut it out of a cream colored cardstock. And then because chocolate ice cream is the bomb, I cut the soft swirl top out of a darker brown. There we go. So I am going to layer these up just to see where I need to put my dimension and shadows. I'm going to be using some Concord and 9th ink. Let me see what colors I used. I used, gosh, I can't remember. Wheat was the light one, and nutmeg was the dark one. Yeah, you can hear me digging through my drawer because I already put them away because I'm trying to be better. I am using a small blending brush, and I am putting the color heavier on the right side, and without adding too much more ink, I'm adding a lighter ink blending to the left side, and that will just kind of help create a little bit of that rounded effect because there's color on both sides, but also it gives that shadow on the right side, which isn't super important in this card. That's just kind of how my brain works as a general rule. So for the second layer, I did put that wheat colored ink over the entire crosshatch part of the die cut because it's darker. You want that pattern to be darker. 100%, you could cut this out with white cardstock and ink blend it, or Copic color it, watercolor it, whatever you wanted. This is the first time I've used this die set, and so I wanted to ease into it a little bit. I did decide that the little cross-hatching needed to be a darker, so I pulled that nutmeg ink out to add some darker detail to the cross-hatching. And the second layer, the middle layer die, does leave the back side of the cone exposed, so I added some of that darker ink to the back side of that cone too. You won't actually see it. It will be covered by the ice cream, but if you were looking at an empty cone, you would, the inside of that back layer would be darker. It would have a shadow. So for the cone, the base of the cone, that's what I was looking for, the base of the cone, I did just go ahead and ink blend the entirety of the base. I felt like it was just a little bit too plain Jane without it. And then this third layer is the rim of the cone, and I did darker on the right, lighter on the left, and there is a very small portion in the middle with like hardly any ink, and that's again to kind of create that visually round, makes it look three-dimensional, right? Okay, for the chocolate ice cream, on the solid piece, the back piece, I went in with that darker color, the nutmeg, I think is what it was called, and just made sure. Took me a minute to figure out how this piece went on. I had to rotate it and flip it around and look at the layering guide, and there is one way to tell. Like there is one point that definitely curls around with the top of that soft serve. You just have to really kind of look at it. Anyway, I made sure that the ink blending was visible through the top layer. Like I wanted it darker. The shadows coming through the openings on the top layer is what I wanted. So I'm laying that down, and yep, it's working how I want. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more ink to, basically I inked up the entirety of this back piece. I'm using my little tweezers to hold things in place because it slides around. And if I get ink on my fingers, I'll get ink on my card. And, that doesn't make anybody very happy. I did take the lighter ink and add a little bit to some of the sections. I did not fully cover this little top layer, I just kind of went over some of the more detailed embossed pieces, parts of it rather. And I could have, and I planned on but forgot, going over the highlight areas with a white gel pen, and I forgot. I just forgot. The card got put together and I was liking it, and I just forgot. So we're going to assemble. I've got my Barely Art glue and my fine nozzle glue bottle here, and I'm putting little tiny lines of glue on the back of the cross hatching of that layer of the die cut. And this glue bottle is perfect for this because, like, while my Tombow glue can do tiny dots, this is a really tiny cross hatching. So this bottle was perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and lay that down and then pick it up really quick so that I can use my fingers to make sure everything is, the plus side of liquid glue is you have a minute to move it around, right? So once we get that layer on, we're going to go ahead and add glue to the back of the third layer so that I can add that to the top of the cone. I almost said card. The cone. So my son was in here for a second while I was editing. He's like, Mom, you should pay somebody to edit your videos. I'm like, oh, honey, I appreciate you think that I'm on that level of YouTube, but yeah, I'm not. So thanks. It was kind of funny. I thought I'd let you know my little humor for the morning. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of glue on the back of the second layer of the ice cream swirl. What would be really cool, and I didn't think of that, I'm going to have to totally do that though, is to have the back piece be white or a cream and the top piece be chocolate, so you have a swirl cone. That would be so yummy. There is a snack shack where my parents live, and they have these soft serve ice cream cones. And I am not exaggerating at all when I tell you that the small cone, not the kitty cone, but the small cone, from the base of the cone to the top of the swirl is almost the same size as the steering wheel in my car. They are so big that they swirl it for you in the cone, and then they dump it upside down. They put the swirl tip in a cup if you ask them to, so that you can, like, not have your ice cream fall on your lap while you're eating it. And it is really good ice cream, and it is a must-have every time we go to my mom's. Okay, card base. We're using a little bit of craft cardstock here. I think this is the, I'm going to say it's Stampin' Up's, I think it's from Stampin' Up. I can't remember the name of the color. I don't remember. A good portion of my cardstocks are still from Stampin' Up because I have so many from back in the day when I was heavily into Stampin' Up that I just have not replaced. I've had no need to buy new colors of cardstock. I had a lot. The panel that we sent through our embossing folder is kind of an aqua blue color, and it is a full-size panel, and I embossed it first, and then I will trim it down because sometimes, this is the first time I've used this embossing folder, but when you emboss paper, it can change the, like, depending on the texture of the embossing leaves, it can make the panel a little bit different size. So I tend to leave it full-size card panel and then trim it down when I'm done. And here I'm going to kind of slow motion so you can see the burlap pattern that this embossing folder made. Wow, words are hard, y'all. It is too early in the morning to be this tongue-tied. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and center this, eyeball center this panel onto my card base. I'm just making sure of my setup. I had a plan in place for the card, but the sentiment was a little bit bigger than I thought it was going to be. I don't, like, when I looked at it visually, it was fine, but when I cut out the outline for the birthday word, it was a little bigger, so I decided not to glue anything down until I had everything put together. So this Happy Birthday stamp set has a coordinating die for the birthday word. And the birthday word die cuts it into 3 pieces. But if you didn't want to deal with putting those 3 pieces back together, you could 100% just stamp the birthday word that's in the stamp set and then cut it out with the shadow layer. And it is a 3-piece layer. It has the birthday word, the shadow, and then a stitched shadow layer as well. I did not use that 3rd stitched layer because, well, it was already getting kind of big. But I didn't have in my stash a really big birthday. Like, I had a medium-sized birthday, but I wanted a really big birthday. And I know, I'm a sucker. I love all the things. So it did take me a couple of minutes to get this on the vellum shadow kind of just right. Again, I'm using liquid glue so that I have a minute to fidget it and play with it and get it all laid down. The hardest part, I think, was the D. So it's like 4 pieces, actually. It has the B-I-R, and then the T-H, and then the D, and then the A-Y. And I think the D was the hardest part of this to put down for some reason. And I think it's because birthday, the word birthday, it's not in a straight line. It's kind of got this kind of sort of swoopy curve thing going on. And with the D being one letter, it was really hard to figure out where it went in that shadow. However, I still love how it looked, and I will 100,000% use it again because it is huge and I love it. I'm a sucker. I am so in love with craft supplies. I 100% believe there are 2 hobbies involved in card making: the purchasing and accumulating of the supplies and the using of the supplies. I am trying very hard to merge my 2 hobbies together, where I am using my accrued, my museum of craft supplies, if you will. But I just get so excited when I see pretty things, especially the new things. And I try not to look because then I want to buy all the things, and I can't buy all the things. Okay, I did remember to stick my little tilde, or tittle. It's a tittle, not a tilde. That's a little swoop over the N in Spanish. The tittle for my eye. I made sure I got that into my little bowl on my dish so I didn't lose it. Okay, the other part of the sentiment is going to come from the stamp set. And this stamp set is awesome. It has really big sentiments. And I'm going to use the one that says, "Have a Fan-Freaking-Tastic." So the card will eventually read, "Have a Fan-Freaking-Tastic birthday." I decided to pull out that dark brown cardstock again. And I'm going to white heat emboss the sentiment onto this cardstock and then cut it out with some label dies, right? The strip dies. So once I can get my fingers to function properly, I'm going to go ahead and put that cardstock in my MISTI and put my stamps onto my cardstock where I want them. And I'm starting with the longer one that says Fan-Freaking-Tastic, which some of the other ones are Hip Hop Hooray, Have a Happy Your, Hip Hop Hooray, Fan-Freaking-Tastic, Let's Celebrate It's, Let's Tie One On, To You, Belated, and Better Late Than Never. So it is a perfect all-around birthday sentiment stamp set because it even has the Better Late Than Never, and I very often have the Better Late Than Never birthday cards going in the mail. I am going to use a Concord and Ninth, I think that's what this is, white ink cube to ink up my sentiment, and being very dainty and delicate because while it is a taller and longer than average stamp, maybe the font is still kind of a thin font. I did forget to treat my cardstock with the anti-static powder tool, so I went ahead and did that, and I cannot get my MISTI lid off the desktop. I don't know what the deal is today. So I grabbed my little microfiber cloth. I'm running over the lid of my MISTI. This just helps me get that ink down without putting a lot of pressure on the lid. And I did decide to stamp it again because of that delay between the stamping and then the ink, the anti-static powder tool. You know, I wanted to make sure I had a nice, good stamping for when I add the embossing powder. So once I get this stamped a second time, I'm going to pull out my embossing powder tub. This embossing powder is the Brutus Monroe Alabaster White, and it is a really nice white embossing powder. It looks really good on colored cardstocks and black cardstocks. So it is kind of my new favorite right now. I've used a lot of embossing powders. The very first one I bought was probably Stampin' Up. I've also tried Hero Arts. But this Brutus Monroe White is just a really nice bright white on, especially for colored cardstock. And not that the others weren't, this just happens to be my current favorite. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. I left this in real time so you can see how fast this goes, especially when you preheat your heat gun. I did go ahead and heat the back a little bit just because I did have a little tiny bit of warping. I probably hold my heat gun a little close to my cardstock, but, you know, that's just how I roll. Once everything was dry, you have to wait till it's cooled, completely cooled. I did take my rag and wipe all of that extra microfiber anti-static powder off of my card panel. And I did that before I ran it through the die cut machine with the labels dies, because I have noticed, and this could be just me, I will admit this could be just me, But when I don't wipe it off, and then I run it through the die cut machine, I feel like some of that powder gets stuck into like the die cut lines, and it's harder to get off. Like the pressure from the die cut machine like permanently embeds it into the cardstock. I don't know. And it could be just, I will admit it, I'm extra. It could be just me. So I'm going to go ahead and line these up and run them through the die cut machine. I'm not going to make you watch it all because we'd be here for a long time. And it's all trimmed down and nice and pretty. So we're going to go ahead and assemble our card now. This card in total, probably from planning to end, was less than an hour. And that is one of the things I love about these lovely layers dies, is that they make putting together a really cute card not terribly time consuming, depending on the technique you use for your lovely layers, right? This could have been a much longer card if I had chosen to, color it with Copic markers or watercolored or something, but I just went with one of the die cut images and one sentiment for the first time out, and it made a really quick, cute card. So my plan is to stick this ice cream cone in the middle, put the birthday on the bottom, and the other two sentiments on the top. I am clearly going to have to overlap my ice cream cone with that birthday die because they're just so big, and that's okay. When you have a very simple card like this, a large sentiment is perfectly acceptable. So I've decided this is where I want everything to be. I'm going to go ahead and pick up my ice cream cone and glue it down first. I'm using liquid glue again because you know I might have to move things around. But before I stick the ice cream cone down, I'm going to put that birthday back down there so I know how far down I need to slide this cone behind the birthday word. And there we go. Perfect. I'm going to hold it in place for a second because I am working on that embossed panel. So I need to give it a little minute to catch. I'm going to glue the birthday down, and the trick here is to only put little dots of glue behind the dark brown cardstock cutout. There are many types of adhesives that are designed for vellum, and in my opinion, unless you are putting like a sticker adhesive on the entirety of the back of the vellum, they're all visible. And I didn't want to pull my sticker maker out, which would have been easier. Let's face it, it would have been easier. But it would not have given me that wiggle room I needed to make sure that that was lined up how I wanted it. I'm going to put a stamp block or two on top of this and let it sit for a second. And then I'm going to add my other sentiments. Now, this is where also this could be a me thing. When I'm doing like card panels or large sentiments like this, I turn my card sideways. I feel like I can see the margins on the left and right a little easier, and I can visually center it better. But also when you're looking at it straight on, sometimes you can't tell it's crooked. Okay, and again, that could be a me thing. That could totally be a me thing. I'm going to put a couple of really large stamp blocks on this and then walk away for a couple seconds. I had a daughter who needed some help with some wording on one of her English papers for her summer semester this year. And so I put those blocks on there and walked away and then came back. And I'm going to add some, I wouldn't say bling because they're not shiny. They're kind of more of a pearlescent. But Honeybee has tons of these little sticker gems, these flat back pearl sticker packages. Wow. And this one has browns. I don't remember the name of it. Let me see if I can find it. It's still laying here on my desk. Yeah, it's not still laying here on my desk. Oh, here it is. It's the Warm Pearls is the color of this particular palette. And it has three sizes, a large, medium, and a small. So I put a large, a medium, and a small on one side, and then a medium and a small on the other side. And that was a whole card front. So now we can just stick our piece of copy paper on the inside of the card because, you know, that's what I do. If you've been here for a minute, you know that's what I do. If you haven't been here for a minute, I'll tell you. I do that so I have a nice, crisp, clean place to write my message because I don't want to have to write everything in white gel pen because it smears and I'm impatient. All right, so there we go. Here is our card video for the day. I love how it turned out. I love that burlap texture. Here's a couple other videos that I think you will like. I'm so glad you decided to hang out with me today. I've also added that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me your favorite flavor of ice cream. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and have a really fabulous day.